Well. Good afternoon, everybody. Russ from the West Ham Network in the broom cupboard. But my head looks really shiny. Didn't realise, but I've come to work in West Ham colours. Obviously keen to represent, but hope everyone is well this fine Tuesday. This morning I did a piece around I call it the West Ham horror squad. We talk about this Frankenstein of a squad, but actually looking into the numbers and looking at the differences in terms of the squad, who was bought by under what manager, not necessarily bought by that manager, but under that regime. And it's quite interesting. I think it's quite interesting in terms of how it all just the differences, and 38% of the squad is still David Moyes' era. That makes sense. Anyway, let's talk about the next era, which could be the Qatarian era. Now, this rumor seems to come up pretty much once every few months, I think, and according to reports, rumors of the Qatari sports investment company have interest in West Ham's 25.1% stake that is available via the David Gold shares or Vanessa Gold shares. Now, she's the one that owns them. Now, the group, according to reports, back in January 2023, according to 𝗛𝗧𝗔𝗥𝗑, relaying the information, they did inquire about pre-purchasing of shares. Now, the alleged interest of QSI is quite interesting and obviously quite intriguing. We know they can't currently own a controlling stake in a club that is or could be in the Champions League, as they already own PSG. So that makes West Ham an attractive proposition, in all honesty, as the likelihood of us being in the Champions League is slim to none. At the moment, maybe with Qatari investment it could happen. If they are looking to get into the English Premier League, which we believe they are interested in, amongst the 20 or so clubs in the Premier League, the only one that's really has any shares openly available to offer is West Ham, albeit a minority shareholding, which I can't see anyone realistically taking that on, especially at the $250 million rather quoted price. For that level of investment, there has to be some sort of assurances of future planning or that type of thing for anyone to buy that in terms of investment, whether it means further ownership options of West Ham, or they come in and have a disproportionate say in what goes on. Again, that's all going to be sort of nullified now with the football ombudsman coming in. I mean, some will say Spurs would be an obvious option for QSI. However, again, Spurs are in the Champions League and Paris Saint-Germain are in the Champions League, and Spurs, according to their statements, I think they've had 2 or 3 takeover bids recently. They've all been rejected, and the club are not looking to sell at the moment. And obviously their failed takeover bids with Amanda Staveley's consortium particularly means, due to takeover rules, I mean, Staveley's consortium cannot bid for Spurs again for another 6 months, I think, if I'm right. I mean, obviously, the average West Ham fan is going to look at this and go, is it a surprise that rumours come up, the week of a planned sit-in protest against Newcastle? I don't think it's a coincidence, in all honesty. I'm not saying there isn't any interest. There may well be an interest. The fact is, there is a stake in a Premier League club, current Premier League club, which is readily available. And with the planned protests, you could suggest that, the major shareholder may well want out potentially, whether he does not, but you got to think the pressure is piling up. There's a lot of media coverage on that. We had obviously Crofty's being quite outspoken over the weekend, and sort of hijacking what was a F1 chat into a West Ham ownership chat. And if anything, it could even stir up even more interest in the protest and protests in terms of the Burnley game, you know, the march, if there is a viable option on the table. I think, you know, that hasn't been presented as such, and now it is. I think now rumours are that it could be. I just think we've been talking. Been talking about the Qatari. You know, we know the land and stuff is owned by lots of Middle Eastern companies and investment funds. I just think it's, for me, it's the boy that cried wolf in terms of these types of rumours. You know, we were led to believe, was it a couple of weeks ago, that foreigners were shown around Rush Green. There was a suggestion that they were just part of the Amara development group, who are currently sponsors at West Ham and advertise at West Ham, and they were looking to sweeten them to give them more money. There was suggestion that it was a US based, although I don't know how you can tell he was a foreigner unless he was talking in with a big Stetson hat and cowboy boots. But it's, I mean, we're going to get a lot more of these stories come up in the coming weeks. There's no doubt about that at all. Particularly coming into the Burnley game as well, where there's obviously a big, you know, if we literally believe a big protest, that will have a lot of media coverage off the back of that. And in a roundabout way, it could be an opportune time for someone to come in and maybe make an offer. But I can't. You know, as I said, for me, it's very much the boy that cried wolf. The boy that cried wolf in terms of these Qatari, you know, as I said, proverbially, I reckon once every 6 months or once every 3 or 4 months, maybe it's rehashed itself, and I'm not too sure where that's come from. But let me know what you think. Let me know, is this this is definitely the time that it's going to happen, or is it? I just don't see it. I do not see it. For me, I think we're more likely to get investment from a US-based consortium. We've already got an in there in terms of Trip Smith, and there's a natural. You know, there's a lot of other clubs are now US owned or partially US owned. You've got the World Cup. 2026, we've got a new kit supplier who's an American kit supplier. I would assume we'll end up with a kit, a US-based front shirt sponsor, which could well time with the stadium as well. So it sort of does, you know, obviously our partnership with Brewdog are part owned by US consortium as well. So, you know, those to me are more green flag indicators, if that makes sense. If you're a red flag or green flag. Whereas the Qatari seems so out of kilter. There's no, I suppose we do have some advertisers like Amara, for example, developments, but I just can't see it happening. But anyway, I thought we'd bring it in and open up the conversation. Let me know what you think in the comments below. We'll be back later on, Hammers Headlines, with lots of fun news to talk about. Anyway, take care, stay safe, stay warm, stay humble, keep the faith, come in your irons. Much love. Bye-bye.